French notified me that he would be late. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Good evening, everybody. The time being 5 p.m. on Wednesday, the 17th of February. I will call to order the regular meeting of the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. And note that to minimize the risk of exposure to or potential spread of COVID-19, the board has added options for comments to be submitted for its public meetings and hearings authorized under Minnesota Statute Section 13D.021. And most commissioners will call in, and the meeting will be viewable via live webcast and TV options. It's also posted to the website 2 days after the meeting. I will ask the secretary to please take the roll.
Commissioner Bourne. Commissioner Musich.
Present.
Commissioner Hassan.
Here.
Commissioner Severson. Commissioner Meyer.
Here.
Commissioner French. Commissioner Forney.
Here.
Vice President Vita.
Present.
President Kogel.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. I'd now ask for a motion to approve the agenda with two staff recommended updates, which are to bring up from committee resolutions 2021-133 and resolution 2021-134.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on approving the agenda with those two updates? I'm not seeing any, so I will ask the secretary to please take the roll.
Commissioner Bourne. Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan.
Aye.
Commissioner Severson. Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
Commissioner French. Commissioner Forney.
Aye.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
President Kogel.
Aye.
You have 6 ayes, 3 absent.
That carries. I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes of Wednesday, the 3rd of February.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes from the 3rd? Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the secretary to take the roll.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
Commissioner Bourne. Commissioner Severson. Commissioner French. Commissioner Forney.
Aye.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
President Cogill.
Aye.
You have 6 ayes, 3 absent.
That carries. We'll move on here to Superintendent Bangora for his report. Superintendent, take it away.
Thank you. Thank you, President Cogill and commissioners. It's great to see everybody. I'll start off with ice arenas. Turf changeover at Northeast Ice Area. Preparations are in progress. And turf season at Northeast will begin on March 24th. Parade and Northeast are both busy with youth hockey games, figure skating, and other programs. Youth and high school hockey seasons both have about a month left to play. In Aquatics is currently hosting lifeguard courses 1 to 2 times per month to bolster recruitment, certified lifeguards, and to prepare for the warm summer ahead. Staff recruitment is underway, and a plan is being developed to open our water-based facilities on all executive order scenarios. So it's a great opportunity and job for folks, young people that or older people that want to lifeguard. So take advantage of that. Adult athletics. We're hosting hundreds of broomball and pond hockey games every week. It has been a very smooth season, even despite the cold weather. Shout out to our officials who have been doing a wonderful job dealing with extreme cold weather, COVID protocols, and game site reporting. And yes, can't thank them enough. So thank you very much for that. Adult athletics. We are hosting hundreds of broomball. Sorry, wrong one. My apologies. Golf will kick off on 2021 season on February 27th with season passes, patron cards, and league registration, which begins for sale at our courses. Registration and purchases will be available over the phone or in person at any of our 18-hole courses from 11 a.m. to 3 o'clock p.m. on the 27th. Youth sports. Youth basketball, we're entering into our 3rd week of the season with 66 teams participating, and that's really impressive. Youth hockey, we are entering our 5th week of the season with 22 teams participating. Excellent job by our staff, and it's great to see our young people out there getting involved and playing, so wonderful news. 18U basketball practice at Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. Park. Players thank staff for having the program, and that is the photo below. Winter fun on the run. St. Vincent de Paul thrift store in Youth Minneapolis reached out as they had a surplus of youth winter coats. They donated 2 dozen children winter coats to East Phillips Park. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. Recreation supervisor at East Phillips, Gene Whitehill, had just been saying they needed some coats on hand as kids were showing up for the winter fun on the run and sledding programs just wearing sweatshirts. Side note, Jean's wonderful mom knits mittens to have on hand for East Phillips kids. That's amazing. We just finished our 2nd week of the Winter Fun on the Run program. Even with temps in the single digits to negative, 28 kids braved the cold and participated. Below is one of our new kick sleds. So that's amazing. And thanks to Jean's mom. That's pretty amazing. Fun of the Run at East Phillips offered a special treasure hunt to get kids moving around. And there's a picture of them looking at or doing the treasure hunt. Rec Plus. Last week, Rec Plus embarked on a very important equity work. The staff received several resources to use for racial equity conversations with the children. These tools included Children Are Not Colorblind, How Young Children Learn Race by Aaron Winkler, PhD, Speak Up Against Bias, Teaching Tolerance, a project of the Southern Poverty Law Center, and the staff and children watched the PBS kids talk about race and racism. The children then did projects related to what they learned. Harrison Park Art Project focused on Rosa Parks. Wyndham Park children made Musai tribe necklaces. Yeah, and I just like to say that that's just amazing. The things that we do in our rec centers and in our Rec Plus program is just wonderful, and I'm so proud to see this, and great work from our community, from our kids and our staff. So very proud of that. Recreation service areas, Northeast and Southeast service areas. Northeast preschools celebrated Valentine's Day by exchanging Valentines and making Valentine hats. And there's the kids with their hats. I love these photos. I'm sorry. I just think they're just great. Uptown South service area, youth attended Spy Club and called the Just Us East program at East Phillips. Spy Club is geared towards 10 to 14-year-olds, engaging mind and body through physical challenges and brain teaser activities. The youth work both independently and as a team. And if you know East Phillips, that's amazing to see the rotunda with some really cool, innovative things they're doing out there. That's just really exciting. And just proud again of the ingenuity and keeping these kids, our young people, engaged and active. So proud of the recreation team. Lower South service area. Lower South staff took flowers and other Valentine treats to local seniors and brightened their day. The seniors had enjoyed and appreciated staff staying in touch. Below is a note from one of them, and I apologize, I can't read it, but I know I'm sure saying thank you and appreciation for our young people bringing Valentine's treats to local seniors. So again, just amazing. Southwest service area, Reverend Martin Luther King Park took youth fishing on Lake of the Isles. Below is a very happy guy with the lunker he caught. I didn't know a fish was called a lunker, so I learned something. So that's just amazing. Really cool. I think Commissioner Bourne had sent a photo at one time of one of the fish caught. I can't remember if it was in Harriet, but pretty cool. I'm sure he'll remember this. Forestry. The forestry department took advantage of the cold weather to wrap up line clearance certification training. Nick Greb and Sean Abrams served as instructors for their fellow arborists. This clearance certificate training is about working near overhead utility lines and keeping the team safe. Wonderful work. The 2020 Volunteer Impact Report is now online. This annual report recognizes the work of volunteers and was put together by volunteer coordinator Sherry Brooks and Nicole Zappa. The 2020 report highlights the contributions of park volunteers who donated their time and energy to our parks during the pandemic. To view the 2020 report, visit the MPRB homepage, click Volunteer and Give, and Outstanding Volunteers. And I know I've probably said it many times, but we could not do what we do without the amazing volunteers that do tremendous work within our system in working not only through all of our different departments, but we just can't thank them enough. And we wouldn't be who we are without these amazing volunteers who participate and help us every year. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Asset management, maintenance, and operations. Teams across all service areas have changed their daily routines due to the extreme cold temperatures we are experiencing. To ensure our buildings are secure and operating optimally, staff are conducting additional building checks, inspecting for mechanical failures such as furnace or water main breaks. Additionally, we are changing filters to maximize efficiency of our HVAC systems and continuously monitoring the temperatures of the interiors. Harold, Pat, and Mecca from Whittier and Kenwood are shown below, changing out filters and recording the conditions. Along with the buildings, our rink maintenance schedule has been adjusted as well. With temperatures in the single digits and below, sprayed water freezes too fast and results in what is called shale ice. Shale ice occurs when there is water between two layers of ice. The layer of water can expand into the fresh layer of ice, which causes the lifting of the top layer. This results in bumpy, uneven skating surfaces and can produce ice that appears like broken glass on the skating surface. Because of this, there has been minimal watering on our rinks. We have, however, maintained sweeping of our rinks but have moved to a 3 a.m. start versus an overnight process. This is an attempt to provide a safer work environment for our staff, allow our equipment to work in slightly warmer temperatures, and hopefully produce better operating equipment. Below are our tractors and sweeping one of our 40 rinks throughout the MPRB system. Again, I can't thank our maintenance and operation team for the outstanding work that they do, and continually taking care of our infrastructure and our assets, our buildings, making sure they're operating, staying warm. And the staff who are out there at 3 a.m. I've seen them out there actually really late at night too, keeping these ice rinks looking really good and making sure that they're just beautiful ice for people to use. And I'm really grateful. The equipment shop, the MPRB equipment shop has diligently been working to get 80 pieces of golf equipment serviced and ready for the upcoming 2021 golf season. And yes, we are beginning. Servicing golf equipment while maintaining snow removal equipment and performing other vehicle service work is challenging. An example, fairway mowers and green mowers require the cutting edge of the rotary reels to be sharpened. These are approximately 42 rotary reel mowers, and each having 4 to 5 rotary cutting reel cartridges per unit. That said, there's approximately 168 rotary cutting reels that need to be sharpened in the off season. The equipment shop stays busy with grinding these reels 2 shifts, 5 days per week. The rotary cutting reels take approximately 3 hours per reel to be sharpened. And I know behind the scenes, these are things that the community and our residents and our folks that use our amazing parks don't know. But I, again, just like to say again, this is the amazing work that our staff do every day to provide the best services and, to maintain the best park system in the country. So again, I'd like to say thank you to all the hard work that they do every day. And we're really grateful. And with that, President Cogill, and Commissioners, I am done.
Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you very much. Do any commissioners have questions for the superintendent? Any questions? I'm not seeing any. Quickly, Superintendent, I did have, well, first, just want to say thank you for the report, and especially just note how centered our frontline staff are in this, and it's really great to be highlighting and celebrating what folks are doing, especially out in the cold this time of year. I can't imagine what doing the ice this last week was like. So greatly appreciate it, and really appreciate that being highlighted. I did wonder if either you or the chief could provide any information for the benefit of the public at this time ahead of the Chauvin trials, if we are, what our coordination is with the city, if any, and if not, that's okay. It will be something we can discuss on March, the first meeting of March, but I did want to ask if that was something we could provide any update to the public on.
Yes, President Cogill, Commissioners, I will ask. We've been, Chief Ohado and I have been working through this, and I know he's been connected and working very closely with the city. So I will turn this over to Chief Ohado to give a brief update.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Good evening, President Cogill and Commissioners. I'm going to keep this relatively brief, and we could come back that first week of March and give a more thorough update to the board. What I will say is that there is some robust contingency planning taking place right now across different departments within the MPRB in case of civil unrest, and also in case we are needed to assist the city with various tasks that may result if there is civil unrest. And so we are coordinating both with the City Office of Emergency Management, the Mayor's Office, the Communications Department, and the Police Department. We are conducting that internal planning right now. And I think as it stands on February 17th, it'd probably be unwise to get into too many details, but I'd be happy to come back to the board that first week in March and provide a little bit more clarity. I will say that jury selection begins for that trial on March 8th, but Judge Cahill has said that opening arguments will not begin before March 29th. So we're really looking at an operational period for the month of April.
Thank you. fantastic. That is helpful, and I think it will be good to, when we do have more information, to provide that update to the board so we understand what our role is relative to the city and all of that. That's super helpful. Thank you very much, Chief. Thank you, Superintendent. Moving on with our agenda, we have a few items in consent. I will ask for a motion on resolutions 2021-123 through 2021-130.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second on the consent agenda. Is there any discussion or questions from commissioners regarding the consent agenda? Questions? Seeing none, I'll ask the secretary to please take the roll on the consent business.
Commissioner Bourne. Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Severson. Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan.
Aye.
Commissioner French. Commissioner Forney.
Aye.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
President Cogill.
Aye.
You have 6 ayes, 3 absent.
That carries. I'll turn it over to Chair Meyer for report from the Planning Committee.
On behalf of the Planning Committee, I move Resolution 2021-121, a resolution approving the concept plan for Linden Hills Park Playground rehabilitation.
Second.
The resolution has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion from commissioners? Discussion. I'm not seeing any. Thank you, staff, for your work on this, and looking forward to approving this plan. I'll ask the secretary to take the roll.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan.
Aye.
Commissioner Forney.
Aye.
Commissioner Bourne. Commissioner Severson. Commissioner French. Vice President Vita.
Aye.
President Cogill.
Aye.
You have 6 ayes, 3 absent.
That carries. At this time, we still have about 10 minutes until open time, so I will recess the full board and turn it over to Chair Forney.
Petitions and Communications?
We'll
Nope.
wait.
Okay, sorry about that. I will convene then the Administration and Finance Committee. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Vice President Vita.
Present.
Commissioner Musich.
Present.
Commissioner French. Vice Chair Hassan.
Present.
Chair Forney.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. I will ask for an approval of the agenda. A second. Or a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. The Secretary please call a roll.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner French. Vice Chair Hassan.
Aye.
Chair Forney.
Aye.
You have 4 ayes, 1 absent.
Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes of January 6, 2021.
So moved.
Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Vice President Vita,
Aye.
Commissioner Musich,
Aye.
Commissioner French, Vice Chair Hassan,
Aye.
Chair Forney.
Aye.
You have 4 ayes, 1 absent.
I'll take a motion to move Resolution 2021-131, a resolution approving lease agreement with Francis Priya in Carsi, leasing commercial space at 1828 Marshall Street Northeast, Suite number 11, located within the Above the Falls Regional Park for a term of 1 year, effective March 15th, 2021.
So moved.
Will the secretary please call the roll?
Vice President Vita,
Aye.
Commissioner Musich,
Aye.
Commissioner French, Vice Chair Hassan,
Aye.
Chair Forney.
Aye.
You have 4 ayes, 1 absent.
I'll take a motion to move Resolution 2021-132, a resolution approving lease agreement with DeVol Trotman, leasing commercial space at 1828 Marshall Street Northeast, Suite number 16, located within the Above the Falls Regional Park for one term of 1 year, effective March 15th, 2021, at the rate of $1,100 per month gross, including utilities and taxes.
So moved.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Vice President Vita,
Aye.
Commissioner Musich,
Aye.
Commissioner French, Vice Chair Hassan,
Aye.
Chair Forney.
Aye.
You have 4 ayes, 1 absent.
Take a motion to move Resolution 2021-133, resolution approving the transfer of $1,836,590.34 from the 2020 Self-Insurance Fund to the Capital Projects Fund to close out and finalize the West River Road Slope Stabilization Project.
So moved.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Vice President Vita,
Aye.
Commissioner Musich,
Aye.
Commissioner French, Vice Chair Hassan,
Aye.
Chair Forney.
Aye.
You have 4 ayes, 1 absent.
And this will move to the full board. I'll take a motion to move Resolution 2021-139, a resolution authorizing an agreement with Live Barn to provide streaming services of the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board ice arenas for a 5-year period beginning March 4th, 2021, with payment of 30% of gross revenue to the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board.
I will move that, but with one correction, it's 2021-134, not 139.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Vice President Vita,
Aye.
Commissioner Musich,
Aye.
Commissioner French, Vice Chair Hassan,
Aye.
Chair Forney.
Aye.
You have 4 ayes, 1 absent.
Lastly, I will at least move the resolution 2021-135, a resolution approving amended use of alcohol in the parks policy. Excuse me, I'm asking for somebody else to move it, but
So moved.
okay. Would anybody like discussion on this or presentation about this? It is a significant thing.
I would like a presentation,
Okay.
but I don't know if we need to go to open time comments first.
Exactly. I think then that I will adjourn the board meeting to go back to the full board.
You'll recess us.
Recess it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Forney. We'll reconvene the regular meeting of the Park Board, and we are moving in here in just a few minutes to open time. And we have two individuals signed up for open time this evening to speak. And I'll just dive in here to the description. Open time is our opportunity to hear from the public. There are two virtual or write-in options for folks to provide their comments to the Board of Commissioners. Folks can submit their comments in writing to the secretary, or they can call into the meeting. We have two call-in speakers this evening, as I mentioned, and one write-in comment. To be clear, this evening we do have the 6:30 p.m. time certain public hearing regarding the Hiawaka Golf Course Master Plan, and that is a separate public comment period. During this open time at 5:30, we will hear any item that individual wishes to speak on. We just do not tolerate any discriminatory or harassing language, and we ask that you refrain from commenting on any pending personnel matters. With that, I'll ask the folks behind the curtain here if we have our first speaker, Courtney Sanders, on the line.
President Kogel, we do not have them online.
Okay. And do we have our second speaker, Glenn Wheeler, on the line?
President Kogel, we do not have the second speaker online at the moment.
Okay. I will ask the secretary then to read the comments from Megan Sparks.
Dear MPRB staff and commissioners, first off, my apology for the mass email. I just wanted to be sure the right folks saw this. My name is Megan Sparks, and I live in Northeast Minneapolis. I have lived here for 13 years. Before that, I was in Longfellow for 10 years and Southwest Uptown prior to that. I love Minneapolis, been here since 1994 after college. One of the reasons I love our city is the parks. I want to thank you for your leadership, particularly this year. You and your team in the indoor ice rinks as well as the outdoor parks have made it possible for our kids to stay moving and healthy. I don't know what my boy would have done without hockey this winter. If he's not practicing with the City of Lake Youth Hockey Association or NEII or playing a game, he's at Wyndham skating with his teammates and community friends. Even on those coldest days, they bundle up, wear their masks, and take breaks in the warming house. Again, I can't tell you how essential this is to the mental and physical health of him and his peers.
Thank you. I'll return one more time here to our call-in speakers. Do we have Courtney Sanders on the line?
President Kogel, we do not have them online right now.
Okay. And do we have Glenn Wheeler on?
We do not have them online at the moment either.
Okay. With that, I will move on with our business for the evening and close open time. Our next item, now that we've had two items that were passed out of the Administration and Finance Committee, I will consider those now. I'll ask Chair Forney to make a motion on Resolution 2021-133.
I'd like to move resolution approving the transfer of $1,836,590.34 from the 2020 Self-Insurance Fund to the Capital Projects Fund to close out and finalize the West River Road Slope Stabilization Project.
The resolution has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
The resolution has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this? Any discussion? I'm glad to see this being wrapped up and finalized. I know it's been a long haul and staff's done a great job on this. So I'll ask the secretary to take the roll.
Commissioner Bourne. Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Severson, Commissioner Meyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan,
Aye.
Commissioner French, Commissioner Forney,
Aye.
Commissioner French, sorry, thank you. Commissioner Forney,
Aye.
Vice President Vita,
Aye.
President Cogill.
Aye.
You have 7 ayes, 2 absent.
That carries. I'll ask Chair Forney again for Resolution 2021-134.
I'd like to move Resolution 2021-134, resolution authorizing an agreement with Live Barn to provide streaming services for the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board's ice arenas for a 5-year period beginning March 4th, 2021, with payment of 30% of gross revenue to the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board.
The resolution has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
The resolution's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on Resolution 2021-134?
Can I get a brief, just a real brief overview?
Yes. I'll ask Assistant Superintendent Cox to provide us an overview on this one.
Good evening, Commissioners. Commissioner French. So basically, streaming is really a response to COVID. Because spectators can't be in the arena, it's really important to help families see their kids participating in activities, and here's one way to do that. The system is it is a subscription, and so families would sign up and pay the subscription so that they can view. We would receive 30% of their revenue. It is not uncommon. It is happening all across the metro, where other arenas are making same or similar accommodations. If you are looking for something more in depth than that, I believe Director Humphrey is online and he can talk more specifically about the program.
So, Commissioner French, you're muted.
I'd be curious to see how much the subscription costs. Just curious about what the subscription costs are.
Oh, you know what? I don't know that. Is Larry Humphrey online?
Yes, I am. President Cogill, Commissioner French. Subscriptions start around $14 a month for unlimited viewing, and it can go up from there if you want other packages. You can stream them on multiple mobile devices, on your home TV, or any kind of streaming device that you have.
Are there any opportunities for folks who may not have the financial wherewithal to subscribe to a streaming service? Is there something to mitigate that? Is there some other way for those folks to enjoy what their kids are doing?
So for Minneapolis public schools, they would not be covered by this agreement. So anyone in the Minneapolis public schools playing hockey would go through anything that MPS does, nothing that we do. Live Barn is open to discussing people that don't have the financial wherewithal to pay those fees, to try to find accommodations for them too. But in general, this is a fee-based subscription service that is not required for anyone to participate in the sports.
So Minneapolis has a similar service, Minneapolis Public Schools?
Minneapolis streams themselves. So they have their own staff come out and stream their games that are being played at our arenas or at visiting arenas. This would primarily be for, youth hockey associations that are having teams that travel here to play in our large scale tournaments. Then we have teams from, Edina or Chanhassen or anything else. So those parents would be the ones primarily paying fees that would go back into our facilities.
Is Minneapolis charging a fee for their subscription service?
I'm not aware what Minneapolis is or is not charging for their services.
So what's to keep us from hiring a couple of video production guys and doing the same thing and just providing it as a service of the park board?
We would have to invest about $10,000 in equipment for cameras to be mounted and in staff time. Also, this is primarily not done for Minneapolis Park Board programs. This is a service that people who are renting the rink pay for outside of the arena to be able to view the programs. Conceivably, the park board probably could do it, but it would be a large investment in not only time, but infrastructure costs as well. In this scenario, we would have no costs associated whatsoever.
Thank you, Mr. Humphries. I appreciate it. Thank you, President Kogo, for allowing me to ask questions.
Thank you, Commissioner French, and very important questions. Any other questions from any other commissioners regarding Resolution 2021-134? Not seeing any. Thank you all. Ask the secretary to please take the roll.
Commissioner Bourne, Commissioner Musich,
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer,
Aye.
Commissioner Severson, Commissioner Hassan,
Aye.
Commissioner French,
Aye.
Commissioner Forney,
Aye.
Vice President Vita,
Aye.
President Cogill.
Aye.
You have 7 ayes, 2 absent.
That carries.
Yeah.
And that concludes our regular business for the board meeting this evening. I'll ask, this last piece is petitions and communications. So I will go through commissioners now. Commissioner Musich.
Pass.
Thank you, Commissioner Musich. Commissioner Hassan.
Pass, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Hassan. Commissioner Meyer.
Pass.
Thanks, Commissioner Meyer. Commissioner French.
Pass.
Thank you, Commissioner French. Commissioner Forney.
Pass.
Thank you, Commissioner Forney. Vice President Vita.
Pass.
Thank you, Vice President. And I will also pass and move us on to our last committee. I'll
No.
adjourn. Oh.
Admin still has another agenda.
Oh, thank you, Chair Forney, for reminding me of that. I will adjourn the regular meeting of the Park Board and turn it back over to Chair Forney for Administration and Finance.
Thank you. I'll reconvene then the Administration and Finance Committee. And we had some questions regarding Resolution 2021-135. And I believe that Annie Olson and Shane Stenzel are around to be able to answer some questions that Commissioner Musich has.
I thought we were getting a presentation, Chair Forney.
I apologize. Okay, I thought you had specific. So,
No, I was looking for a presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, good evening, Chair Forney, Commissioners. As Chair Forney said, I'm Annie Olson, the Director of Customer Service. Shane Stenzel, the Permits Manager, is on with me as well. We do not have a formal presentation with slides, but I would like to provide you with some background information on these amendments to the current use of alcohol in the parks policy. As you know, earlier this past 12 months, it seems this has been the longest year ever, but over the course of this past year, there have been some changes and some action by the board for staff to find some alternatives to utilizing Minneapolis police officers as additional extra duty support for permitted events. This direction from the board in combination with some changes in general and trends within the parks and our permitting have put staff to work making some amendments to start to the use of alcohol in the parks policy. There are kind of 3 substantial changes that are made to this policy, and I'll give you just kind of a brief overview right now, and then I'll let Shane jump in and provide some more background specific to security related to alcohol service. So the first two changes, one is about 3.2% beer. 3.2% beer is a Prohibition era brewing technique that brewed beer at a kind of a lower alcohol content and was long standing as one of the alcohol types that we allowed within the Minneapolis parks under certain conditions. 3.2 beer has kind of sunsetted. It is no longer really being produced anywhere in the nation. And slowly all 3.2 beer will go away. In response to that, staff knew that we needed to make some changes because there were many mentions of 3.2% alcohol in our existing alcohol policy. So we needed to address that. Additionally, within the most recent version of the alcohol policy that brings us to today, there was very specific locations which were named areas that we would allow alcohol service or alcohol to be consumed. That has changed over the years, and we have had different use of the parks and different demand. We've also had recent legislation that has opened up opportunities for us to look into both food and beverage service, including alcohol, at different locations within the park system. So as part of this policy amendment, staff addressed that as well, as to not name these specific sites, but to allow us to align the policy language with existing infrastructure that allows us to permit alcohol service or consumption in other areas within the park system. But the most substantial change to this policy really is about the decisions we make in providing or requiring security related to alcohol service for our permitted events. We have really two different categories of permitted events which provide alcohol service. One is the private event category, like wedding receptions and things of that nature, private parties. But the other are public events where there may be a beer garden or some type of alcohol service as part of that event. And that's where we are recommending some differences with this policy, leaning on best practices, research that we've done, and analysis of our own event portfolio has led us to the recommendations and the proposed policy language, which we outline here. And I'm going to let Shane jump in and talk a little bit about this because this really is his area of expertise. So go ahead, Shane.
Thank you, Annie. Commissioners. So a couple of changes that we looked at were, based off of consumption in the park and what we're seeing and best practices. As Annie pointed out, 3.2 beer is gone. I've been with the park board for 20 years, and when I started, alcohol had to be fenced in, 3.2 beer only. I would say in the last 10 years, you're starting to see more, obviously, but a lot of the breweries are getting more involved. And there's no such thing as 3.2 beer. I don't know if you've been to a brewery, but they'll laugh at you when you walk into 3.2, ask for 3.2, and everything is a lot stronger. So we looked at this policy and, a couple different ways. One is we could limit the number of drinks a person can have in the park, or we can let people have fun still, but do it in a safe manner. So we looked at the private events such as weddings, corporate events, that type of thing that happen in our facilities. And we're making the recommendation that we think we can go to a private security on those, where the alcohol provider is licensed and insured, and it would be up to them to provide their own security for the consumption of alcohol. We'd still maintain the hours and everything that we currently do with our policies, but just for the consumption of alcohol, that would fall under private security. And then for events, we would do a risk analysis for each event, determining length of alcohol, what's being served, how many people, that type of thing. But our recommendation is we're seeing a lot of groups, particularly like races and that in the morning. You run a race, you have a beer afterwards. Very common. We don't see the need to have a security or an officer at those if they're happening. Most of them are done by 2:00. Most of them are controlled with one or two containers or glasses of alcohol. So we see that as a very, very low risk. And so that's why in the policy, you'll see a 2 o'clock, kind of a 2 o'clock. After 2 o'clock, we start getting into more festivals with live music and that type of thing where people are gathering and staying for a longer period of time. And so we'll do a risk analysis based off the number of people and the duration of the event and make the determination at that point for the number of officers. Typically, it's a minimum of 2 officers, which we've been normally doing in those situations. I'll stand for any questions.
Anybody have any questions? I don't see any hands. Oh, sorry, Commissioner Musich. A hand, a real one. Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Forney. I apologize. I forgot that I had to look under reactions to find the hand raising. I just found it. Annie and Shane, I appreciate the work you put into updating this for when we're talking about events. This all seems to make a lot of sense to me. I'm glad to see that we're finding ways to continue to allow people to celebrate within the system without making it prohibitively expensive for them. What I'm not seeing here is what I saw all over the system all summer long, which is families out picnicking all over the system and having a beer or a glass of wine with their meals. And we're not addressing that in this policy. Was that considered as part of the updates that were made to this policy that we're reviewing this evening?
I'm going to jump in, and then Shane, you can piggyback on my comment if you'd like. When we identified locations or facilities as designated by the superintendent or designee within the policy language, that provides us an opportunity to include areas like picnic tables or picnic shelters and determine what is appropriate in particular park locations. We did talk about, anywhere from a blanket on the grass to somewhere that's more formalized. But what we determined was by focusing our language and then efforts on identifying facilities which we determine that provides us with a little bit of a foundation to make those decisions without it getting away from us. That's how we try to address it within the policy language. Shane, I don't know if you want to jump in and say anything else about that.
I would defer to the police chief as far as any kind of state statute in terms of consumption of alcohol in public spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Please, Chief Hiawaka, please.
Chair Forney, Commissioner Musich, I think it's important to remember that there's an ordinance that prohibits the general consumption of alcohol within the park system, and that's PB 2-17. The work that Annie and Shane and the work group have done have given the superintendent much more authority to designate areas across the park system where alcohol can be consumed lawfully. The ordinance does require that those areas be designated, and this policy allows the superintendent the authority to designate those spots as he sees fit. So it could result in a significant expansion of alcohol service across the park system. What I don't think it permits, though, is people bringing their own alcohol into the park system for self-service. That would not be my understanding of what this policy allows, and maybe Shane can speak to that as well.
Yeah, that is correct, Chief. It does not allow for people to bring their own alcohol into undesignated areas for consumption.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I understand that current ordinance and this policy does not allow for that, but that is what's happening. And we have families of all colors and makeup coming into the parks to enjoy a meal together with each other. And they're, as part of that meal, consuming beer and wine. So, I would hate to see this sort of gathering that's organically happening in the system to be something that people are being prosecuted for engaging in under our current ordinances. I did not see, it was all over the system all summer long, kind of just seeing how things were going. And I did not see public drunkenness occurring, right? I saw people having a beer with a meal. And that to me does not seem like something that most Minneapolitans are going to object to. So do we need to be looking at updating the ordinance to allow for that sort of behavior to not be illegal in the system? Or how do we get to a place where people can enjoy hanging out with their families in the parks, doing what they would do at home in a way that's not disruptive to others?
So Chair Forney and Commissioner Musich, I would say that if your desire is to permit people to bring alcohol into the park system and consume it either in a designated spot or throughout the system, there would need to be an ordinance revision or an ordinance repeal. I would caution you on sort of approaching this from a carte blanche perspective. Substance abuse and alcohol are underlying conditions in almost all of the bad things that take place in the park system. And so, I think updating our policies and our approach to alcohol use in the parks is good, but I think that there needs to be some work done around framing that in a way that doesn't overstep.
Okay, so I guess I would be interested in seeing the data around interactions with police that have involved alcohol that was brought into the system from an outside source, particularly in this last summer where we're seeing so much park use. And then I'd also be interested in hearing from our legal counsel about what other cities do to manage this particular issue, because I travel pretty extensively and I see people having wine and beer with their meals in parks elsewhere. And I don't know if that's legal or illegal there, but I'd be interested in understanding how other municipalities of a similar size approach this. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner French. You're muted.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair Forney. One question I'd like to ask is who certifies these different, private security companies? Who makes the determination which company gets hired? And are we making a determination whether these companies are minority owned or owned by folks who actually live in the city of Minneapolis?
So I can speak to that, Commissioner Forney and Commissioner French. We talked about the private security aspect for private events and have determined that the onus will be on the liquor provider. So the caterer or vendor, which is on our, which we have a contract with, would then, they already have the relationships with security companies, because at many venues across the metro or in the areas that they're working there is a requirement for security. So we would not probably, we wouldn't want to name any type of named companies within the policy language as that changes. And we had talked about the potential of looking at providing some type of preferred list, but we don't also want to keep anyone from being on a list. So the preference would be, and the determination of our work group was that we put the onus on the vendors, which we have already gotten into a contract with, to contract that private security for those events.
So what I'm concerned is if there's going to be contracts in the park system, that minority and women businesses won't get a crack at those contracts, because those entities or those institutions that are going to be doing events at the park have pre-existing contracts with folks who may not necessarily be of color or women. One of our protected classes. I want to make sure if we're going to go over to this model where we're going to be putting money in the hands of folks, I want to make sure that folks who live in the community have a chance to get that. So, and one more question I have for Chief Ohado.
Chief, are you there? Yay.
Hi, how you doing, Chief?
Good, Commissioner. Thank you.
Do we? How many times have folks been cited for drinking in our parks in the last year or so?
Commissioner French, I did not prepare those numbers for this presentation, but that's a pretty easy thing for me to pull, and I can follow up with that information for you after this meeting.
And Chief, I'd also like to see what the demographics of the folks who were cited. I'm just curious. So thank you, Chief Fajardo, and thank you, Chair Funny.
Great. Commissioner or Vice President Vita.
I think Commissioner French just asked my question. My question was also for the chief, and just wanting to know how many citations we've given to families who are drinking at picnics in a year.
Chief.
Chair Vita, or I'm sorry, Chair Forney and Commissioner Vita, I don't have that answer for you right now. I will say that we would not probably put a description as to whether or not it was a family at a picnic event. We wouldn't probably sort that information in that way, but I can provide you the general information around how many citations were issued for people consuming alcohol in the park system.
Thank you, Chief.
Is that it? Okay, great. Thank you all. I apologize. I was laughing a little bit. My early youth, all I did consume was 3-2 beer at the Black Forest Inn. So I'm not a prohibition kid, I can tell you guys. So anyway, the only thing I didn't hear throughout all the presentations is, are we in alignment with any state statutes? I'm assuming you guys looked at that. For some reason, I thought a lot of this was more governed by state statute.
Chair Forney, our work group was sure to make that we were looking at all of the legalities of this policy language. We did run this through Ann Walther with legal as well. And we're sure to verify any laws with Chief Fajardo. And I believe that the changes that we have made align with what we need to align, whether it be the city, the county, the state. I think that we are good to go.
Super. Yeah, go ahead, Chief.
I would just add that the city of Minneapolis does have an ordinance that prohibits the consumption of alcohol in a public place or loitering with an open container of alcohol. So, to the extent that we are allowing alcohol consumption within the park system, it is a little bit of a departure of what the city would do. But clearly we have the authority to make that decision.
Thank you for that clarification. Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Council. Bryce? Okay.
Yeah.
He's reverberating.
Do I turn my light on, Jennifer?
You're on. No, we can hear you.
Use this.
Okay. Sorry, I haven't used this for a while, Madam Chair. To Commissioner Musis's question, we will review her question about what happens in other parks, but in Minnesota, it's the derivation of how this works is the Park Board does have an ordinance that prohibits drinking in the parks and in public places. And as Chief Fajardo said, Minneapolis has an ordinance like that. I don't know if there's a state law to that effect, but I believe the DNR prohibits drinking in their parks. I will check that and report back to the board. But how this policy plays out is that the general rule is the Park Board is allowed under a state law and under our operating provisions by granting a license in effect, which is what Ms. Olson and Mr. Stenzel are talking about. And we can prescribe the conditions for it. And so each of these events that occurs is basically a licensed and permitted event, as opposed to a general drinking is allowed either at throughout the system, or if you were going to say we're going to designate certain parks to drink in at any time, or limited times, or certain tables at certain parks. So liquor law in Minnesota is quite complex. There's a number of regulations you need to go through from the state, the city, the park board. So rightly or wrongly, it's, I might be using the wrong phrase, but it's very much a controlled substance. And you have to kind of set the parameters about when and how it can be used. And so Ms. Olson was absolutely right. Ann Walther, who's worked on these issues, worked with the work group and walked through it. But the question there was this more narrow one of, public safety officers and presence on that and how they vet that. I would at one point, Commissioner French had a good question, but the park board does approve the list of caterers who are, eligible for these things. And so you do have, the board has some control of the characteristics of those caterers, and those caterers are the ones who would retain the security personnel as I understand the proposal. And I also think that's just a wise thing. It shields to some degree or puts the responsibility on these caterers to make sure that the security is appropriate. I mean, it meets our standards, but they're the ones making the decision. So we'll obviously have to monitor that and learn from, if there's a untoward incident or something we didn't know about. It will be a departure, given that in the past you've relied more on your park police and city police officers to do it, but with the board action last year, the personnel just wasn't there to meet the demand. But we will get back to you on these points.
Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it and any update. So Commissioner French, I'm assuming that your hand was just up, or do you have something more you'd like to ask?
Yeah, I'd ask for staff to go back and maybe readdress some of the points that Commissioner Musich had about families actually participating in our parks. I would hate for us to give special permission for certain groups and institutions that have the wherewithal to take out a permit for them to enjoy our parks and have a beer, opposed to some guy who's stressed out at home and wants to just go sit on the park bench and have a wine cooler or a beer or something, and he or she may get accosted by the police or one of our patrol agents, and the turnout would be completely different. So I challenge our staff to go back and try to, I think this is good for right now, but I challenge our staff to go back and try to figure out how we make it accountable. How do we make it accessible for, somebody wants to just come have one or two people having a beer in our park, and not have, I'm not saying this is happening, but I don't know what the statistics are, but just, not give folks an extra reason to get bothered. So I want that. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Chairman.
No, I was going to say, I see Chief Ohado wanting maybe to say something, and also Deputy Superintendent Ringel. Either one of you, jump forward.
Chair Forney, I would just restate that there is a prevailing ordinance passed by the Board of Commissioners that prohibits the consumption of alcohol in the parks. And if the Board of Commissioners wants to change the ordinance, that is the purview of the board. And so, the idea that our park police officers are accosting people because they're drinking in the park, that is the result of an ordinance passed by the Board of Commissioners.
I don't think that's what I'm saying, Chief Ohado. What I'm saying is I'd like to figure out a study report to figure out a way, the feasibility of families or one or two people sitting in the park and having a beer. I'm not saying that we should let that okay. I said I want to figure out what the feasibility of doing that. So I would ask staff to go back and figure out if it's a good idea, if it's a bad idea, or whatnot.
Deputy Superintendent Ringel.
Thank you, Chair Forney and Commissioners. So the alcohol ordinance is one of the ordinances that was identified in our ordinance project to be able to look at that. It's one of the ordinances that we anticipate would require community engagement. So we had set that into another category, waiting for the opportunity to be able to have the resources to do community engagement around that. But once we had that ordinance revised, then we'd be able to take this policy and revise it as needed to be in sync with a new ordinance.
Thank you for that clarification. Commissioner Musich, are you, okay, please.
Thank you, Chair Forney. Deputy Superintendent Ringgold, do you have a timeline of when you anticipate that particular ordinance review to occur?
Chair Forney, Commissioner Musich, we do not at the moment. We have to revisit the timelines and the funding and the staff capacity for that at this point.
Okay, when that's available, could you update the members of this committee with that information? Because it sounds like at least 3 of us are pretty interested in hearing more about that.
Absolutely.
Great, thank you.
Any other hands up? Once again, Commissioner French, or I'm assuming that you're complete?
I'm sorry, I've made a mistake that time.
Okay, no problem. Well, I thank you for these revisions, and of course, look forward to ongoing updates on the questions that were asked this evening. With that, I'd like the secretary to take the roll on the motion. What are we back to? Motion resolution 2021-135.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Vice Chair Hassan.
Aye.
Chair Forney.
Aye.
You have 5 ayes.
Thank you. I will declare then the Administration and Finance Committee adjourned.
Time being 6:10 p.m., I call to order the Planning Committee. Secretary, please call the roll.
Vice President Vita.
Present.
Commissioner Musich.
Present.
Commissioner French.
Here.
Vice Chair Forney.
Here.
Chair Meyer.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Vice Chair Forney.
Aye.
Chair Meyer.
Aye.
You have 5 ayes.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes of Wednesday, February 3rd, 2021?
So moved.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Couldn't hear you.
Aye.
Vice Chair Forney.
Aye.
Chair Meyer.
Aye.
You have 5 ayes.
We're a little bit early for our time certain public hearing, so I'll ask someone to move the resolution for 2021-136, the resolution approving the Hiawatha Golf Course Area Master Plan and its amendment to the Nokomis Hiawatha Regional Park Master Plan. Is there a motion? Great. And we have a presentation from Tyler Peterson.
Good evening, Chair Meyer and committee members. We'll wait just a moment for the first slide to pop up here, and we can get going. So tonight, I'll be presenting the Hiawatha Golf Course Area Master Plan and the results of the 45-day public comment period. And then at the end of the presentation, we'll just jump into the public hearing. Next slide, please. So the master plan presentation will hit on these points. I'm going to try and be as brief as possible. There's a lot of information here, but I think some things warrant a little bit of overview. So I'll kind of chug along and we'll get through this. First objective here of the presentation is just to answer the question what a master plan is. Why are we planning? Planning responsible outcomes. How did we get here? Community engagement, the plan. What does the plan accomplish? Balancing ecology, Gulf, and history. Cost overview. Public comment period and process for tabulating comments. Comment themes. Modifications to the plan based on low impact feedback. High impact themes to note. And then jumping into the public hearing. Next slide, please. So what is a master plan? Well, it's a conceptual roadmap, really. It sets the vision to guide long-term development. It guides stewardship. It helps ensure park features, functions, and amenities reflect the needs of the community they serve. It strives for long-term financial and ecological sustainability, and it's a funding tool. We can't design a solution without first having a goal, and that master plan defines those goals. Next slide, please. So why are we planning? We have an obligation to ecology. On January 6th of this year, Kenny Blumenfeld of the State Climatology Office presented to the board and gave us some insight into our local climate changes in Minnesota and Minneapolis locally. What we're seeing, or what he's telling us we're seeing, is an unprecedented wetness and warmth that has been already observed, along with more damaging rains. So on the little chart on the right-hand side here, the red dots are the last decade of rain, and they're both in the more wetter and more warmer part of the spectrum here. So the last decade has been the wettest and warmest decade in Minnesota history. And despite this increased presentation, normal variations, those ups and downs that we see will continue, and drought will remain part of our climate. But it's important to note that the increase in precipitation is not an even ramp. There are those variations along the way, but still getting wetter and warmer. Next slide, please. The plan, it pushes towards a balance of Gulf and other activities set in a landscape guided by water management. It necessarily bends toward ecology and its aspirations. It recognizes that restoration of natural processes, which were significantly altered by Theodore Wirth's dredging of Rice Lake, are a goal greater than those supporting human activities on the site. Choices we've made favor preservation, conservation, and restoration. The restoration of sustainable water patterns and recreation balanced in a new ecologically driven landscape form the higher order goals inherent in the plan. Next slide, please. We have an ecological duty that necessitates the plan, which creates responsibilities the plan should meet. The first is social responsibility. Honoring Black history at our golf courses by partnering with local BIPOC golfers and organizations, creating a space for learning the game and introducing new golfers, creating a welcome space where everyone feels at home, exploring opportunities for employing more people of color at our golf courses, reversing urban encroachment of natural areas, introducing new natural area to South Minneapolis, honoring water, working with local indigenous communities, and creating nature first areas where nature comes first, humans come second. There's much work to be done, and the master plan is just a starting point. Next slide, please. The second is financial responsibility. We want to introduce new revenue sources, create a flood resilient golf course that can bounce back, and tap into the dense urban population surrounding the park. Next slide, please. So the next few slides, I'm going to be pretty brief. This is kind of an overview of what you all saw a few months back during the 45-day public comment period when I presented the plan in its entirety. So I'll try and be brief. I'm not going to read this whole thing. So how did we get here? The site flooded in 2014. We started master planning in 2015. Planning was interrupted in September 2015 when we learned that the course was being dewatered. A study concluded pumps were dewatering or removing groundwater from a large basin within the golf course at a rate of 263 million gallons per year at that time, over 400 million gallons per year in 2019, and last year 333 million gallons per year in 2020. The pumps were designed to transfer stormwater to the lake. They were not designed to transfer or pump groundwater. Several water management alternatives were developed. Water management alternative B was approved. Master planning resumed in March of 2018, and the board reaffirmed the direction of the master planning guidelines in Resolution 2018-230 on July of 2018. 3 concepts were then made. A preferred alternative was created from those, and then a draft master plan was created from that. And then a comment period was initiated. The comment period closed in September of 2020, and the comments tabulated and final changes to the draft were made recently here. And then now, of course, the final master plan is before you for your consideration. Next slide, please. So as you can see here, there's been a number of things that we've accomplished over the last few years. And if you kind of tilt your head a little bit, you can read it. But I'm not going to go through it all. There's a lot there. Just know that there's been a lot done, this segment in particular, from 2014 to 2018. And the next slide, please. And then master planning 2018 to the present. Next slide, please. I'll briefly go over the community engagement process that we had for the master planning. We had 9 public meetings. We had a neighbor-specific meeting regarding the basements, plus we did some measurements of their basins. We went into their homes and made some measurements. Dozens of email updates between 2014 and 2020, 7 CAC meetings, 10 focus session open houses, 4 surveys, hundreds of handwritten email comments, several in-person meetings, and plenty of phone calls. A video presentation of the plan was viewed by more than 2,800 people. It's gone up in the past month or so. And then just recently, 345 surveys were collected during the 45-day comment period, producing 1,181 comments and 468 comment themes. Next slide, please. So the CAC helped craft a new vision based on 4 categories. The 4 categories came from the Nokomis Hiawatha Regional Park Master Plan that was approved in, I believe it was 2015. And the vision sets the tone for our work. Next slide, please. Can you go back, please, just once? There we go, thank you. Oops, transitioned weird. Okay, I'll just read this very quickly. The vision is, the Hiawatha Golf Course area is a unique destination providing a welcoming and equitable park experience for both the surrounding community and regional park users that is ecologically responsible, addresses water management needs, and respectful of the site's natural and cultural history. Park development will have a long-term focus for year-round passive and active recreation where golf and other recreation will interface with ecology and art to provide for a flood-resilient design that is accessible, connected, and celebrates the spirit of Minneapolis. Next slide, please. And then going along with the vision, we've created a set of guiding principles or goals. These are really the kind of the things that we're trying to achieve here. They're also broken into those four categories. The first category is natural resources here. So honoring water, providing flood resilient design, protecting homes nearby, reducing flood impacts, reduce the volume of trash, enhancing ecological benefits, improving water quality, and reusing pumped groundwater. Next slide, please. And then the second category, community and equity, creating equitable experiences and spaces, celebrating history, supporting sustainability, reducing barriers, encourage access, minimizing impacts to the adjacent neighborhood.
Commissioner Vita, could I have you mute your line? Or can the meeting host do so?
Next slide, please.
Okay, Tyler, you're muted. I think they muted all of us.
I think all of us, yeah.
Sorry.
Thank
Can you hear
you.
me?
Yes, sir.
So recreation, we'll just do this real quick again here. Envision golf as a central activity, provide golf and golf learning opportunities, diversify recreation and create unique experiences, and enhancing gathering spaces. And then next slide, please. The last one is connectivity and circulation. We want to create connections, create cohesive and complementary solutions, and reduce barriers and encourage access to the site. Next slide, please. So at the end of the CAC process, the CAC prioritized 26 elements desired to be included in the plan, with a top priority of protecting homes from groundwater intrusion, including engineering analysis. Next slide, please. All the CAC priorities were met except for one. Priority number 10, provide a plan to retain 18-hole golf course with alternative ways to reduce pumping. A flood resilient and ecologically driven 18-hole golf course cannot fit within the site. It contradicts the board's direction outlined in 2018-230. Elevating 18 holes above the elevation of the lake will reduce floodplain volumes and push floodwaters to the next lowest areas, which would be the neighborhoods, things we don't want to do. Next slide, please. The master plan includes built-in flood resiliency to quicker recover, ecologically driven, a 9-hole golf course, golf learning center, community building, clubhouse, lake house, connectivity within the park and to the neighborhood, ecologically and environmentally responsive design throughout, strives to restore the ecological function of Rice Lake while balancing recreation activities, including golf and the history of golfers at Hiawatha Golf Course, and includes 9 experiences throughout the property. Next slide, please. So what does the plan accomplish? It accomplishes balance. It tries to better balance ecology and recreation and balance golf and history. It strives for ecological sustainability, financial sustainability, and to minimize risk. Next slide, please. So balancing ecology. The original design of the site dominated nature. Theodore Wirth dredged the lake the original lake, placing 1.25 million cubic yards of dredged material over wetland and created new land. Nature has been reclaiming the site as fill material subsides and wet weather continues. The photo shown here, pretty interesting. It's from 1922. It's of Cedar. It's on Cedar Avenue and Minnehaha Boulevard corner. Basically, Caribou Coffee would be kind of in the center of the picture on the other side of the street. So it's pretty much all wetlands east of here towards Rice Lake. Next slide, please. We want to be able to balance golf. We want to have a course that is redesigned and has learning facilities. We want to introduce new players to the sport. We want to grow the sport and not just sustain it. Introduces golfers to a balanced park experience, being within nature. 9 holes recognizes that more people have a limited time to play golf. And there's actually a quote from Jack Nicklaus that says, the game takes too long, it's too hard, and it's too expensive. And he was referring to in a conversation about 12-hole design when he said that. Next slide, please. And then balancing histories. Hiawatha's history of supporting people of color is significant. It brought the game of golf and its camaraderie to many people unwelcome in so many other places throughout our country. The area is a part of Dakota history as well. The area is considered Bedote. Treaties were erased and Dakota people were violently pushed from their homeland, but they are still here. Next slide, please. Costs for the project were split into 6 budget categories and managed from 2 funds with several different funding sources. Next slide, please. Capital costs were split into those 6 budget categories with a total cost of $43 million estimated. Next slide, please. O&M costs, revenue and profit. The goal here is to get a balanced table, so we're not going too far downhill. And we believe that we've got it balanced here. Next slide, please. Key cost takeaways. Master planning is a tool to get the funds. Improvement dollars are almost never in hand at the time of master planning. There are many ways to pay for these improvements. Regional parks receive regional funding. It's not just local taxpayers paying for this stuff. Budget categories in the enterprise fund are run like a business. This plan is a starting point. Implementation will be incremental, and partnerships are essential. Next slide, please. The public comment period ran from July 15 to 2021 to September 15. 2021 shouldn't be, not 2020. There were 345 individual surveys, 26 emails from the public, and email from partners. Next slide, please. When tabulating the public comments, staff read each commenter's survey response. Various comments in each response are separated and put into a spreadsheet. Comments are grouped into themes, and then those themes are assigned categories based on impact to the master plan. Low, moderate, high, and none. These rankings are not an opinion of what is good or bad. Next slide, please. So this is kind of how we tabulate public comments. We've got commenter number 1 and commenter number 2 that filled out a survey and submitted it to us. And within that survey, they had three individual comments each. So comment W, X, Y, and Z. And the next slide, please. And so staff took those comments and organized them into themes. So each theme now has, would then be rated for its impact to the master plan. And then a staff comment, staff response was included as well, to get those all in a line and categorized. Next slide, please. Themes may have no impact. These support the plan, refer to something too detailed for the master plan, or is outside the plan scope. No impact. Minor changes or clarifications to the draft plan that can be made without diverging from CAC priority recommendations. High impact. Would fundamentally change the underpinnings of the plan, go against Resolution 2018-230 passed by the board, and likely require additional community engagement. And modern impacts would require changes to the CAC recommendation, and those are provided in attachment E that you've all seen. Next slide, please. Some statistics here on the themes. There were 372 responses, making 1,181 comments. 463 total comment themes were created. 336 of those themes were no impact. 70 of the themes were low impact. 46 of the themes were high impact, and 11 of the themes were moderate impact themes. 127 comments were supportive of the plan in some aspect. Next slide, please. The plan was modified based on low impact feedback between the draft and the final. And some of those modifications include clarification of how and where snowmaking will happen. Additional groundwater pumping info for 2020 was added. Clarification and enlargement of the backyard neighborhood area in the northwest corner of the property was added. Clarification of funding and revenue sources. Additional 2021 golf outlook regarding pandemic impacts. And expansion of golf rounds sold at MPRB courses to include 2019 and 2020 totals. And then inclusion of areas of potential citywide high groundwater concern. Next slide, please. Some high impact themes to note that I think we'll hear about a little bit more this evening as we go through the public hearing. I think I'll be quick with these because I know we're a little over time. The two biggest ones, I guess, were keeping 18 holes of golf and removing golf altogether. Both of these are high impact themes. Next slide, please. They're both high impact themes because they contradict the board's direction stated in Resolution 2018-230. 18 holes of golf will not physically fit on the site while following Resolution 2018-230's requirement to pursue a reduced pumping scenario as conceptualized in Water Management Alternative B. And then the removal of golf altogether contradicts Resolutions 2018-230's requirements. At a minimum, provide a flood resilient and ecologically driven 9-hole configuration for golf. So both things can't happen. Next slide, please. Thank you very much for listening. And to all the commenters, of course. There's several really great comments, very helpful comments that came through that altered the plan and clarified the plan that I think really needed to happen. Before we jump into the public hearing begins, I'd like to introduce the CAC chair, David Kaplan. And David, if you're on, if you don't mind saying a few things, that'd be great.
Hi, can everyone hear me? Yeah, I got that right. Great. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you for having me here tonight. My name is David Kaplan, and for the last 3 years, I've had the honor to serve as the chair of the CAC for the Hiawatha Golf Course Master Plan. I'm here to express my support for the plan as proposed, not because it's the perfect plan, but because it's a really good compromise. This was a difficult project with so many viewpoints, the historical connections to the course and its incredible history, and the environmental factors affecting the property. Finding our way to a middle ground was going to be hard at best. The Board of Commissioners who initiated the CAC provided us with specific instructions and parameters. And as you know, after the subsequent election, we asked for clarification. In both of those cases, we were provided consistent guidance from the Board of Commissioners, and this plan meets those parameters and instructions. It's in keeping with the guidance we were provided by this body and reflects the vision and the guiding principles the CAC created as part of our work. Most importantly, it gives all involved in the conversation something, but no one got everything, and that is really the hallmark of a good compromise. In my time as chair, we ensured that meetings were open and accessible. We extended public comment well past the 15-minute allotment. As many of you know who attended the meetings, we often kept public comment open for often up to an hour. So all viewpoints can be heard, and they were. We worked hard to make sure everyone from CAC members to the public had their chance to speak, and this was all done in a respectful, sometimes contentious manner, as one might expect from projects like this. I also want to just take a quick moment to thank the park board staff who worked alongside us, especially Tyler and Michael Schroeder. Their willingness to work with us and adjust meetings quickly on the fly sometimes to meet the needs of the community was really important, and it was a real pleasure to work with both of them. I'm really proud of the work we did, the accessibility and transparency of the CAC meetings and the end product. Together with the community, we identified 26 priorities for this plan ranked by a vote of the CAC. My understanding is this plan encompasses all but one. That's a 96% success rate. The only one that was not included was a preference for 18 holes, which we were told on numerous occasions would be difficult to achieve. I would just remind everyone that, as I did throughout the CAC process, that we're an advisory body and it's not our job to set policy. And while the question of pumping was one that came up multiple times during and between CAC members and the CAC meetings in the months since we completed our work, it wasn't our job to decide the pumping question. That's the purview of the Board of Commissioners, and therefore this plan adheres to the pumping decision made by the board. The plan removes the question of who can yell the loudest. It provides a plan that meets your instructions, your parameters, the CAC's vision and guiding principles, and the varied and multifaceted viewpoints of everyone with a stake in this master plan. I would ask the Board of Commissioners to please don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. I embrace the hard work and compromise that went into this plan. I'm very proud of it. I know others are very proud of it as well. And I just thank you all for your time and your consideration tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplan, and thank you, Mr. Peterson. We will continue onward with the public hearing. I believe we have 17 people who signed up to speak in person. There were also 40-something people who submitted written comments. Those were distributed to commissioners prior to the meeting. I'm going to give the people who are calling in 90 seconds each to comment. And as you comment, please state your name and, if you're comfortable, your address. First, we have Ben Sai. Is Ben on the line?
We do not have Ben.
Do we have Sean Gasuski?
Yes, they are online now.
All right, Sean, you have 90 seconds. Sean, are you there? *6 unmutes if you're muted. You said you had them on the line. Were they responsive before?
Yes, they are online now. It appears that they have muted themselves.
Okay. Sean, if you're talking, we can't hear you, so you need to press *6 to unmute yourself. All right, we're going to come back to Sean. Meanwhile, do we have John Schwerman?
We do not have them online at the moment.
How about Sean Conity?
Yes, we have them online now.
All right, Sean, please state your name and address, and you have 90 seconds. Sean, press *6. We can't hear you yet.
Hello?
We can hear you, great.
Hello?
Hi, Sean. Tell us your name and address, and you have 90 seconds. Please state your name and address.
Hi, my name is John Schwerman. I am at 3837 18th Avenue in Minneapolis, near Lake Hiawatha. I am just calling to support the master plan. I read it last Friday very thoroughly, and I was super impressed with the thoroughness of the project, of all the research, the careful gathering of community input, the consideration of so many voices, and the development of solutions that address such a wide range of goals that, you know, Tyler advanced earlier in the meeting tonight. And, you know, these solutions, I think, address some long-standing issues as well as some future issues, you know, due to potential further changes in climate. So, you know, for me, the plan in particular addresses the pollution and trash, which is, you know, I've lived here for 23 years, and it's just been painful to watch the pollution and trash flowing into the lake the whole time I've been here. So to get this addressed is awesome. The preservation of golf on the property, preparing for further effects of climate change, doing things to promote biodiversity and enable equity, you know, equitable access. I'm just so supportive of it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Do we have Sean Conity?
Yes, we have them online now. Watch the pollution and trash flowing into the lake the whole time I've been here.
Sean, can you turn off the background? And then tell us your name, address, and you have 90 seconds. We lose him?
Nope, they should be online right now.
Okay. Sean, press *6 to unmute.
Hello, did you guys hear my presentation?
No, but we can hear you now.
Okay. Sean Conity, Standish Erickson. When I started picking up trash 6 years ago, we asked the park board to address the trash problem at Lake Hiawatha. Since then, hundreds of us have removed more than 8,000 pounds or 500,000 pieces of plastic and styrofoam trash, removed by hand. But still, the lake is trash. It's the responsibility of the park board to clean up the trash, but they have not. There are 86 years of unfiltered trash and pollution, with more dumping into the lake with every rainfall and snowmelt. This plan contains the solution. Will we stop trashing Lake Hiawatha and meet in compromise? Compromise to means a clean lake and a reconfigured golf course. I support the idea that the reconfigured golf course should be run by Black leadership and the restaurant be Black owned as one way to honor the African American history of Hiawatha Golf Course. I have a tenuous hope that we are about to take the first steps in righting the wrongs we have done to the lake, the land, and its inhabitants. This legacy has ultimately damaged us as a people, weighting us with the psychic toll of a trashed ecology, unclean waters, and the historic and ongoing disregard for Dakota and indigenous lands and peoples. Let's stay focused on healing and repair. If the park board votes to reject this plan, nothing will change, and our legacy for future generations will be a polluted lake. Thank you. Hopefully, did that go through?
Yes, it did. We could hear you just fine. Thank you, Sean.
All right. Thank you so much. Be well.
Let's try to see if the other Sean Gasiewski, is back. We have Sean.
Not have them online at the moment.
They're not? Okay. All right, the next we have Charles Rogers. Do we have Charles Rogers?
Yes, they are online now.
Charles, tell us your name and address, and you have 90 seconds. *6 unmutes. Charles, are you there? If you are talking, we cannot hear you. All right, let's come back to Charles. Yes, we can hear you. Thank you. Yep, we can hear you now. State your name, address, and you have 90 seconds.
Charles Rogers. I'm in the Regina Field neighborhood. I guess my question is to a couple of commissioners. You guys said you would give us a plaque.
Charles, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
There's a delay on it.
Well,
Charles, I think we lost you. Press *6 if you muted yourself.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Say your name, address. You have 90 seconds. Turn off the background turn off the background because there's a delay on the background.
To a couple of commissioners. You guys said you would give us a plaque.
Charles, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
There's
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
Continue.
Okay. Okay. You said.
I think we lost you. Press *6 if you muted yourself. Come back.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Turn off the background turn off the background because there's a delay on the background.
I have no background music.
Chair Meyer, perhaps it
Yes.
would help if IT explained how to turn off the sound for the meeting for the caller.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
IT, can you help us with this?
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
We can hear you, Charles.
Yes, Charles, this is the administrator. We've just put you back into the waiting room. For the callers on the line, the background noise that we are hearing is the telecast that you are viewing on your own. And so if you are viewing the telecast through live stream, there is a delay. So Chair Meyer's comments and the conversations that you are hearing on the stream, the live stream, the telecast is delayed. And so you will not be hearing the same thing on your phones. So if you could mute the background noise of the telecast and listen to the phones, that would be the live feed on your phone. So if we could have you mute the background noise and the telecast and have you listen in on the phone, that would be the best way to speak and give your comments. So
Thank you for that. Yep, Charles, you can proceed now.
We will bring Charles back into the room now.
Okay.
And Charles, once we bring you in, if you could listen in on the phone and turn off the background noise. Charles, you are online now.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. So am I live or what?
We can hear you.
Okay. My concern is you guys said that you would give us a plaque in regards to the history. Now, and that was stated by Commissioner Myers, Music, and Mr. Schroeder. And I guess my question to Commissioner Forney and Commissioner Calgill, are they on board with this? You know, because, I mean, basically, this board has had a lot of problems with some racial problems. And I just feel like it's kind of a slap in the face for 6 privileged white commissioners to decide what Black history is important. You know, and then this day and time with the pandemic, you guys are going to spend $60 million to change a golf course that doesn't really need to be changed. And from looking at your budget, $60 million is half of your budget. You know, so I'm just kind of concerned with who's making decisions there. You know, because it just doesn't make a lot of sense. You want to get rid of a golf course that actually during this pandemic made $7 million. And that was the most money you raised the whole time during the pandemic. But even with raising $7 million, you lost money. I mean, and that's just amazing to me that you guys something's wrong there. So I think we need to kind of look at the board and look at who's controlling the board and who's running the board, because $7 million and you lose money, that's really, to me, that's, as a business owner, that's really bad management. So
Thank you, Charles.
That's my point. All right, thank you.
Next, we have Craig Nichols. Craig on the line?
Yes, Craig is online now.
Okay, Craig, remember to turn off any background, state your name and address, and you have 90 seconds.
Hi, this is Craig Nichols. I live on 16th Avenue.
We can hear you.
Okay. I thought a lot about what I'm going to say here tonight. Sadly, from the start of this, too many people have chosen to make this some sort of culture war surrounding the people who currently use this property, making broad generalizations which anyone who frequents the Hiawatha knows are ridiculous. I'd like to thank the people who have helped me see things from a different perspective during this process: Charles, Londell, Sean, Michael, and the whole of the CAC, to name a few. While it has been difficult, I enjoyed meeting so many of you. Nearly 90 years ago, Worth made a mistake in filling this in. It's something I would not support today, but something good came from that. A community of people from all backgrounds, races, economic statuses, and ages meet here every day to enjoy being with one another, learning valuable interpersonal skills that they may not have had an opportunity to have learned otherwise, all while getting exercise outside. Right in the middle of our city lies one of the most diverse and affordable golf courses in the whole country. Its history is enormous, and Hiawatha is something Minneapolis should be proud of, not tear down. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Next, we have Peter Mclaughlin. Is Peter Mclaughlin on the line?
Yes, we have them online now.
Peter, tell us your name and address if you're comfortable, and you have 90 seconds. *6 unmute. If you're talking, we cannot hear you.
Hello.
Now we can.
This is Peter McLaughlin. I live at 4458 35th Avenue South. The park board's job is to create a park system for all of Minneapolis, and this plan is going to destroy a vital historic resource that has served this community for almost 100 years. You may not like golf. There are people who do. People who get as much pleasure out of it as others get out of biking, hiking, swimming, or skating. Financially, this is a disaster. You're losing revenue at a time when the system needs revenue. Does golf pay for itself? Well, last year it sure did, but admittedly not a lot of times in recent years. But trees don't pay for themselves, walking paths don't pay for themselves, and this plan is going to require tens of millions of dollars of additional capital funds that you don't have. Why is this such a priority now? I mean, it's going to consume resources needed in other parts of the system, be it North Minneapolis, Northeast, and for South Minneapolis, I asked, where are the resources for Ed Solomon Park? That, to me, has been neglected for years. The water is the key thing here. That's the compromise that got struck was because of the pumping issue, and the limit is a phony artifact. I've talked to the DNR. They're not shutting down this golf course because of a pumping limit. Come up with a plan, get a new permit, and it's going to go forward. There's no reason why the water storage problems for a huge chunk of Hennepin County ought to be borne by the people of South Minneapolis, particularly the golfers. And I will say, no matter how many plaques and old black and white pictures of black golfers you put up, it's not going to recognize the historic role of this golf course in the tortured racial history of this city and this state. It's tokenism of the worst sort. I think it's time to reject this plan, get to a compromise that will, in fact, increase access, improve amenities, clean up the water, clean up the pollution, preserve a revenue stream, save tens of millions of dollars for other critical capital needs, including Ed Solomon Park, and keep an 18-hole legacy golf course, a historic legacy golf course. I hope you reject this plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Next, we have Kyle Samajima. Samajima.
Yes, we have them online now.
Right. Kyle, unmute yourself, state your name and address, and you have 90 seconds. If you're talking, we cannot hear you. *6 unmutes. Kyle, are you there? We still can't hear you. All right. We can come back to Kyle. How about Lois Conroy? Do we have Lois on the line?
We do not have them online at the moment.
How about Stephen Greenfield?
Yes, they are online now.
All right. Stephen, unmute yourself and tell us your name and address, and you have 90 seconds. Cannot hear you if you're talking. *6 unmutes.
Lois, you are online now. You can go ahead.
Okay. Lois, if you're there, you can begin now.
Who are you calling on now?
Who is this? Is this Stephen?
Stephen Greenfield? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Stephen.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Stephen Greenfield, 34th and Girard South. Along with other members of a consortium of local environmental organizations, I see that the master plan represents a compromise that will maintain golf, but also address our, quote, obligation to ecology and in line with the Resolution 230. We support proposals that have been made to strengthen the plan in order to protect and enhance essential habitat for migratory and resident birds and other wildlife. In particular, we urge you to please approve Amendment EWET 14 to expand the natural area to be restored. We strongly support an earlier request by Friends of Lake Hiawatha to move the foot trails away from the western shore of Lake Hiawatha to protect the otters and away from the forest on the southernmost part that's home to great horned owls. Looking at the details shown on the map, we also urge that you remove the multi-use paved trail through the island, since traffic there would disrupt wildlife, reduce habitat, and diminish the experience the plan describes as a, quote, island respite, unquote. Active recreation such as fat biking and mountain biking should be excluded in designated wildlife corridors such as Minnehaha Creek and along the lakeshore. Finally, regardless of any changes, including those or further deliberations, please approve without delay the stormwater management component of the plan to address the pollution problem at Lake Hiawatha and protect nearby homes from flooding. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Is Lois still on the line? Lois, can you hear us?
We do not have that online at the moment.
Okay, we'll try again later. Next, we have Matt Brillhart. Is Matt on the line?
Yes, they are online now.
Right. Matt, tell us your name, address, and you have 90 seconds.
Yeah, Matt Brillhart, 4348 34th Avenue South, just about a half mile east of Lake Hiawatha. In general, I'm very supportive of the master plan. I find that there's a lot to like here in the proposed improvements, and I really commend the CIC and staff for their hard work over the past few years. I know it's been a really challenging and contentious issue, but I feel like the plan is a great compromise that preserves 9 holes of golf and also really opens up this just magnificent public property to the whole public to use. I like golf. I have golfed at Hiawatha. I would also really like to see the proposed trails and additional amenities, like the restaurant vendor, boat launch, rental, and other amenities. I think that all looks terrific, and I look forward to being able to use those new amenities along with all of my neighbors. As we move forward from approval to implementation, I will be paying close attention to see the plan evolve into a higher level of detail, making sure that those trails and connections really fit seamlessly with the existing trails in the area. Lastly, and obviously some of these things are going to take a lot of capital, as we know, as other folks have mentioned. It's not going to be just park board money. I'm sure there will be state bonding requests and other regional state budget requests. I guess I would just urge the park board to be upfront with people about how lengthy of a timeline we're looking at here. I think especially for the folks that are really concerned about 18 holes of golf going away. I think we know now that there was originally a 5-year timeline laid out where the golf course the 18 holes would have closed somewhere here in the next couple of years. But we know now that that's not going to happen. I've been told by staff that 5-year plan has kind of been thrown out, and it's more indefinite and when funding is made available. So I guess just try to be as upfront as you can with folks that feel very strongly about the 18-hole golf course, that they're still going to get to enjoy it for many more years here. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Next, we have Susan Murray. Is Susan on the line?
Yes, they are online now.
Right. Susan, tell us your name and address, and you have 90 seconds. If you're talking, we cannot hear you. *6 unmutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Hi, my name is Susan. I live on 41st and 19th. I am very impressed with the plan. I think it's a great compromise. I know it has been a very emotional issue for me and all of my neighbors, and I've had a lot of really good debates, and we've all still maintained friendships through it. So I know this has been a hard process, and I thank you for it. I do have one critical concern regarding the diversity of the activities in the space. I know diversity of activities has been in some of the guiding principles, as well as reducing barriers and opening access to a broader set of park users. Unfortunately, I see a considerable lack of diversity in the activities. So you've included boat rentals, which is also available at Nokomis, a restaurant, which is also available at Nokomis, a nature playground, which is also available at Nokomis. I'm not saying that I want to eliminate any of these. They're great resources. But if we want to truly be intentional about welcoming a diverse group of people into our neighborhood, we need to provide diverse activities for them to enjoy. The plan also states that our neighborhood has a higher concentration of Hispanic and Latino families, as well as racial diversity is increasing. One of my greatest joys in the summer is seeing families gather in the parks and be able to bond and have a fun time with each other. However, I often see teenagers walking away from the basketball court disappointed, and families breaking up their family soccer games simply because the one basketball court that is poorly maintained is taken, or there is not room to play soccer. So if we really want to be an equitable city where there's equitable opportunities, we need to provide diverse activities for the diverse people and not just hope that they learn to like a certain activity that we find important, but instead making sure that we actually have activities that are welcoming to all different kinds of people, interests, and not just replicating the same activities that we already have offered at other areas very close by. So again, I support the plan. I'm excited about the plan, but I would urge consideration of diversifying the activities a little further.
Thank you, Susan. Next, we have Nathan Shepard. Is Nathan on the line?
Yes, we have online now.
Yep. Nathan, if you can turn off the background first, there's a delay on that. And then tell us your name and address, and you have 90 seconds.
Thanks. I hope you can hear me. My name is Nathan Shepard. I live at 42nd Street and 23rd Avenue, just on the north side of the golf course. I was involved in the CAC, and I'm also a member of the Standish Erickson Neighborhood Association Board. I wanted to just comment that I appreciate the work of the CAC, Craig and Sean and others who've commented to create what seems like a good compromise plan between the various uses of the property, while also permitting some development in terms of climate, pollution, water, and trash and those kinds of things. I would echo some of the comments that I've seen from the Friends of Lake Hiawatha report that talks about prioritizing pollution and climate solutions as part of this plan over the social, recreational aspects of the plan, because those things are sort of out. We already have recreation in that area, and if it's not exactly the recreation that's in the plan, then we can wait a little while on that while we take care of some of the other things that are maybe elevated in importance. This isn't to denigrate the importance of any of the other uses or aspects and issues related to this, but it does seem like to the point that we want to get those things solved, that it would be appropriate to elevate those. To that point, I also noticed that there's a potential amendment related to parking and allocation of funding to manually clean trash. I think that's probably a positive, particularly with respect to the parking. Drawing more cars into that area doesn't seem like a positive, and limiting parking is one way to prevent that. And again, to raise the importance of removing trash from the lake so that the lake itself can be a recreational opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you, Nathan. Next, we have Ann Laughlin. Is Ann on the line?
Yes, they are now.
Hey!
We can hear you, Ann. Please turn off the live cast first, and then tell us your name and address, and you have 90 seconds.
Can you hear me? Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Chair Meyer and Commissioners. This is Ann Laughlin. I live in the Howe neighborhood, and I'm speaking on behalf of a coalition of local bird and wildlife conservation groups. As a previous speaker from our coalition stated, we do support proposed amendment EWET 014 to expand natural restoration areas, since this site is so important to birds and wildlife. And we also support amendment DDP 603 to hire staff to remove trash from Lake Hiawatha until you construct a solution. But in this area of climate change and in an ecologically sensitive area that provides habitat for many birds and other wildlife, we believe the proposed level of development in the plan is excessive, including in cost to taxpayers both to construct and to maintain it. The scale of development, including 3 new buildings, is inconsistent with the plan's stated intention to, quote, favor preservation, conservation, and restoration rather than expanding past acts of disturbance or creating new development, end quote. So we ask that you reduce the built environment and amenities to better align with the CAC's recommendation for a modest proposal that keeps costs down and preserves the lake's natural and quiet character. Specifically, please remove the facilities that are counter to the recommendations of the CAC and the intentions of the plan, including the snowmaking system, the kayaking and winter activities facility, and the lake house. Thank you.
And it sounded for a minute there that we had a different commenter on the line. Was that someone else who was previously called on?
Chair Meyer, that was the previous speaker, so they just hadn't.
That was Ann? Okay.
Yep.
Great. All right, so the next would be Troy Johnson. Is Troy on the line?
Yes, they are online now.
Troy, tell us your name and address, and you have 90 seconds. If you're talking, we cannot hear you. Star 6 unmutes.
Hello?
We can hear you now.
Great. Troy Johnson, Keewaydon. The master plan raises a number of questions. Will this project eliminate or reduce the number of beach closures at Lake Hiawatha? Currently, both the creek and the lake are impaired for bacteria, and the master plan doesn't quantify any bacteria reductions. Will this project remove enough bacteria from the lake to be safe to swim in? After the project's complete, will the lake still be impaired for phosphorus? According to the master plan, the project will reduce phosphorus loading by 25%. That's great, but it's still well short of the reductions needed. So, after spending $45 million on this project, will we still be left with a polluted lake? Is this the best plan? Instead, let's engage residents and businesses to manage water where it falls to prevent pollution before it's created. This will reduce both the quantity of water and the amount of pollutants entering the lake and streams. So let's remove the trash, let's improve habitat, and let's keep 18 holes. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy. Next, we have Keith Mcdermott. Is Keith on the line?
Yes, we have them online now.
Keith, tell us your name and address, and you have 90 seconds. Keith, if you're talking, we cannot hear you. Star 6 unmutes.
Hello?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Hey, I just wanted to call and, I guess, my displeasure about the Hiawatha Golf Course plans. I don't know what it's going to do for the neighborhood as far as bringing up the neighborhood. I'm a little concerned about the water mitigation problems. I have been worried about them for 20 years now. And last year I saw the sinkholes develop on 14th Avenue in front of my house over here on 57th. And I know we're only moments away from having the sewer problems that I saw happen on Edgewater and 16th and 15th. And so I'm a little concerned once the pumping stops at Hiawatha Golf Course that we're going to have immediate problems if we get 2-3 rains next year, because I know Edgewater Park is at an elevation of 820 feet, and my street's at 824 feet. My house is at about roughly 827 feet, which means my basement slab is at 819 feet, which means it's already in a danger zone when I look at 820 feet being in the water table at Edgewater Park. So it really bothers me, I guess, to some point that over 20 years we haven't figured out a way to control the water situation, and I fear that this is going to be a problem that removes a number of houses from the neighborhood, and I just don't see how that benefits the neighborhood.
Thank you. I just want to check, was that Keith?
Yes.
Thank you, Keith. All right, next we have Roxanne Stewart. Is Roxanne on the line?
Yes, they are online now.
Over 20 years, we haven't
Roxanne,
figured out a
please
way
turn off the live cast.
to control
After you
the
turn off the
water
live
situation.
cast,
It's clear that this
then tell us your name and address, and you'll have 90 seconds.
Hello, this is Roxanne. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. My name is Roxanne Stewart. I live at 4055 25th Avenue South near Lake Hiawatha, and I'm a former member of the CAC. Earlier, I shared written thoughts with each of you, so I will try to be brief here. Overall, I am quite supportive of the plan. By definition, a park is an area of land set aside for public use, and to that end, in my mind, it should be safe and accessible to all. And in my mind, that is the persons and wildlife alike. I just want to make a call out to several points within the plan. On page 4, it references the master plan must align with the water management plan to be successful. I sincerely hope we do that in terms of concerns for water volume and flooding, TMDLs, untreated runoff, trash accumulation, chemicals and fertilizers, and bacteria in the water. My second call out is on page 11 of the plan. Areas providing habitat for wildlife are primarily confined to the shoreline of the lake along the existing berm. That's a current condition. My past experiences of Lake Hiawatha and the surrounding land have involved participation in various cleanups. There's a great amount of trash that enters the lake and accumulates on those margins that are currently home to wildlife, and are also areas where people interface with the wildlife and with the water. Polluted margins are hazardous to humans and wildlife alike, and we need to keep that in mind. Thirdly, page 12 speaks to the importance of equitable park experiences, and I believe we need to look to the margins to make sure that access provides opportunities for all. And I will just conclude by saying much of life is experienced on the interface, and we all have a responsibility to make those experiences safe and accessible for all users, again, human and wildlife alike. If we do not meet those goals, then we minimize the golf and park experience for all visitors. Additionally, diversity needs to be celebrated from historical context and also provide future and ongoing equitable opportunities for growth recreationally and economically. For all of these reasons, I support this plan as a good foundation going forward.
Thank you, Roxanne. All right, I'm going to go back to the beginning of the list for people that we missed. Do we have Ben Tsai?
We do not have them online at the moment.
How about Sean Gasuski?
Yes, we should have them online now.
Okay, Sean, turn off the live cast. There's a delay on that.
Okay.
And
Okay, I'm going to turn it up now.
Okay, great. And we can hear you. Tell us your name and address, and you have 90 seconds.
Okay, very good. Hello, this is Sean Grzeszewski, and I live at 3132 22nd Avenue South here in Corcoran neighborhood. And I've been volunteering with the cleanups at Lake Hiawatha over the years. And we're so excited about the master plan, which would be able to mitigate the North Pipe in order to prevent all the trash all the way from Lake Street going into the lake. I'm also very moved by the ability to go back and repair the damage that was done when the wetland was drained, 100 years ago. Very close by is the most sacred spot for the Dakota people, the Bedote, the Pike Island. And so I feel like working with the Healing Places Collaborative with Dakota leaders, we could really have much more visibility for the Dakota understanding of our relationship with nature. I'm excited that the 9-hole golf course will be continuing. I'd like to teach my daughter how to play the golf there, as well as being able to practice golf in the winter. I'm also a cross-country skier, and would love to, have additional cross-country ski opportunities. While at the same time, let's make sure we have areas for the beaver and the owl and other animals that are not going to be disturbed by mountain bikers and other people getting too close. So let's be able to walk around the entire lake, but have the walkers further away from the lake. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Do we have Kyle Samajima on the line?
Yes, we should have them online now.
All right. Kyle, if you can hear us, tell us your name and address, and you have 90 seconds.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Kyle Samajima, and I live at 43rd Street and 13th Avenue South in the Northrop neighborhood. I am also the executive director of Minneapolis Climate Action and a member of Friends of Lake Hiawatha, and I urge you to vote for the plan. Leadership in government, including the park board, requires understanding the intersection of climate change and systemic racism and decisions of the past that centered white supremacy over non-white humans and nature with horrific and long-lasting consequences. And these decisions of the past require us to make difficult decisions today. The past and current opportunities for Black residents to have access to golf and the benefits of the sport are valuable and should be protected. Climate impacts, however, that consistently disproportionately cause communities of color and communities with low incomes harm have reared their ugly head and require bold, equitable decisions. This means an 18-hole golf course built on a dredged wetland is not viable, but 9 holes is. And ensuring the whole Lake Hiawatha ecosystem, including the golf course, is healthy, viable, and resilient to flooding, drought, and other climate impacts is key. In addition, there is a serious deficit of natural experiences, especially for communities of color and communities with low incomes, that are also a detriment to health and well-being. So creating a balanced, healthy ecosystem shows all communities that we can prioritize equity, the health of the planet, and the animals and natural systems that literally keep us alive. I urge you to vote for the plan and prioritize Black history and Black leadership in defining the Gulf and ecological aspects and the health of Lake Hiawatha and the surrounding community of humans and ecological systems. I urge you also to consider the financial and societal impact of not acting on making a floodplain and sensitive ecological area more healthy and resilient to the impacts of climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Do we have Lois Conroy?
We do not have them online.
Okay, and one more time, do we have Ben Tsai?
We do not have them online either.
All right. Is there anyone else in the waiting room that I missed?
Chair Meyer, that is it for our speakers online.
Great. Like I mentioned, there were some written comments. Those were shared with commissioners prior to this meeting. So with that, we will conclude the public hearing. And do we have any questions or comments from commissioners? To raise your hand in the reactions section. Not seeing, there we go. Commissioner French.
Yeah, there's a lot of places in this country, Lower Town in Florida, Rosewood in Florida, Brownsville in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Tulsa, places that didn't seem important, and white folks just wiped them out. And then 20, 30 years later, they said, hey, we shouldn't have did that. That was messed up. I haven't played a round of golf in my life. Not one. But I know that was a special place for Black and brown folks. My grandma used to talk about the Walnut Street in Milwaukee all the time. Every day she talked. Walnut Street, this is where Black folks would shop at after church. Walnut Street, that's where we went to go, we went to go buy stuff on Christmas. Walnut Street, the Easter outfits. This place that meant a lot to her. There are places like that all over this country that have been decimated and destroyed for the sake of progress. Whose progress are we talking about? We're not talking about those people who couldn't play golf anywhere else besides this place. Hiawatha is the cheapest place to play golf in the state. So who are these rich people that we're making people so they can't play golf no more? Where are they? Because I've been up there a few times. I don't hang out there a lot. I don't play golf. But a few people look like me and look like they come from the same economic class that I come from. If this is a class issue, you're beating up on the wrong class. This is where golf has been played at for black and brown people for almost over half a century. And putting a plaque up to say, hey, this is where some good stuff happened at, it's not enough. Our history has been, decimated and subjected to plaques too often. I have black leaders from all across this state calling on me, asking me, why are they trying to shut down this golf course? Elders, people who played there when they were kids, people who played there with their dads and their moms. They talk about the Copper Cup. Where's that history being told at? You gonna put a plaque up? That's what we gonna do, put a plaque up? You know why my grandma talked about Brownsville all the time and Walnut Street all the time? She didn't want me to forget about it. She talked to me about it till she was blue in the face. And I was a tired kid, tired of hearing the story, tired of hearing about how they wiped out some place I'd never seen before in my life. It was gone before I was even born. She talked about it because one day I might be in a position to say no. That's our history. I don't have to be able to learn how to play golf. I know that's our history. I know we're going to be feel really, really crappy 10, 15 years from now if we destroy it. So I want folks to really think about what they want to do and what they're trying to do and what they think is right. When you guys are looking at things through a social justice eyes, you will understand that this place means a lot to people. Not me, I don't play golf, but it means a lot to the people I care about. It means a lot to the people who look like me. So I'm going to be done. Thank you for allowing me to speak, Jeremiah.
Hey, Commissioner French, Commissioner Viton.
Hear me, Commissioner Meyer?
Yes, we can.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've been having some technical difficulties and switching devices. Hopefully you can hear me and see me fine. I just wanted to say that this has been a really tough time for me because a lot of the environmentalists and also Black golfers and just the Black community in general, I want to make sure that I don't just talk about the Black golfers here. They are very important, but I've received calls from many folks from the Black community in general because of how passionate we are about history. From what I see now, none of these guiding principles address Black folks' connection to this space or to the opportunities that they feel like we should have in this space. So I am not going to be able to support this tonight. I am hoping that over the next couple of weeks, I can have conversations with folks and before this comes to the full board, bring forward some amendments that definitely make the Black community feel like this is their space and that they can feel safe in this space, they can honor history in this space, and that nothing changes for them physically and emotionally when they are using this space. A lot of the conversations I've had have been, and I like that some of the environmentalists actually said it tonight as well, because it is the conversations that I've had since elected to the park board. You know, we should have opportunities for wealth building for Black folks in this space. We should have some type of youth mentorship program. We should have more Black golfers employed throughout our system entirely. And I think this is an opportunity for us to do some of those things. Again, I'm not going to be able to support this tonight, and I hope that over the next coming weeks, I have an opportunity to speak with folks in the community and my colleagues on the park board to come up with some ideas that capture the experiences of the Black community.
Thank you, Commissioner Viton. Commissioner Forney.
Thank you, Chair Meyer. The elephant in the room tonight is Mother Nature. She is the higher power in this plan. She doesn't care if you are white or black, Christian or Buddhist, green frog or red cardinal, or if you are a golf course or baseball field. This course is in a huge watershed. From Lake Street down to the course, it is a massive watershed. Our park system was bestowed a mud hole in exchange for racially covenanted developments adjacent to these flooded soils that grew wild rice. Theodore Worth sculpted what we wanted, what he wanted all over the city. And now we woke to the supreme power of Mother Nature. The Minnehaha Creek Watershed District has been working its way downstream to mitigate what our century-old ignorance allowed. I woke when I realized personally that I had a hand in getting one of my best friends and her husband and her son, who was my godson, into their home at 4044 Portland, whose foundation had caved in back in the 70s. I woke when realizing once again we, the park board, benefited in receiving the land north of Sibley Park after a homeowner was killed when his foundation fell in on him from floodwaters in the 80s. As I indicated, I woke to these realities and I support full passage of this plan. What is paramount in passing this plan is for the city's public works to wake and mitigate the impacts of Mother Nature. We all need to work in close partnership with the Minnehaha watershed to address the ecological impacts. I grieve the loss of an 18-hole golf course. I grieve the impact of the Black Lake legacy, but I understand now that this course needs to be led by this plan. Staff will speak of hydrology and ecological plans. I speak of Mother Nature's sheer dominance. In our park history, it is written that in 1910, as plans were presented for a massive dredging and filling operation to reshape Lake Nokomis, Worth recommended acquiring the land around Rice Lake, redirecting Minnehaha Creek into Lake Nokomis and filling Rice Lake. A dry meadow, he wrote, would look better than a swampy lake. It would look better. Mother Nature also doesn't care about looks. Lastly, I want to thank the CAC appointees, our staff, community, for your engagement in this process. And yes, I support acknowledgement of the Black history and not just a plaque. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Forney. Commissioner Musich, your hand was up earlier, but it's down now. Would you like to speak?
I would like to speak. Thank you, Chair Meyer. For whatever reason, my hand just keeps getting put down for me. This has been a long process, and I'm incredibly thankful to the staff, the scientists, the other government agencies, all of the members of the public that have shown up at meetings, that have called me, that have emailed me, that have written me letters, that have stopped to talk to me at a public event. It's been a huge learning experience for me about what this space means to people and also just how challenging it is to maintain in its current state for the future. It's amazing that we're to a place where we've found so much compromise. I had not anticipated that the Community Advisory Committee would find so many points that they could agree upon. So that was very heartening to see. And to see that people were able to have a dialogue that came to the process from very, very different places was really good to see as well. So many thanks to the staff that helped coordinate and run that, to the chair, David Kaplan. I'm so thankful for your commitment to sticking through the process and helping people have constructive dialogue. So important in public processes like this. I appreciate the presentation, Tyler, and I'm hopeful that that'll be linked to on the project page as well so people can find it easily. I thank my colleagues for sharing what this project and this place means to them and what they are hoping to see happen with it. Commissioner Vita, I look forward to seeing what you bring forward in terms of amendments. I know that the portion of the plan talking about how to recognize and acknowledge the historic use of this course in integrating golf in the city was not very well fleshed out, and so I appreciate you taking the time to help improve the plan in that way. Yeah, it's been a long process, and I appreciate everyone's patience as we find a way forward as a community. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Musich. Commissioner French for the second time.
Yeah, I would like to employ my fellow commissioners to think about Mother Nature as like Mother. You know, is it against Mother Nature for Black and brown folks to be enslaved and brought over in this country and still be forbid to do stuff that everybody else is doing, like play golf? The Mother Nature stopped that. So it's really odd that now we want to talk about the environment and Mother Nature and do the right thing. But for years and hundreds of years, we haven't done the right thing for Black folks. We haven't done the right thing for Indigenous folks. But now we want to do the right thing. Now we want to do the right thing. Now we want to look out for the environment. Now we want to make sure houses don't get flooded. Now we want to do this. Now we want to do that. Where were y'all at when they was killing us? Where was Mother Nature at then? So do what y'all do. But this place is important for Black and brown folks.
Thank you, Commissioner French. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Vice President Vita.
No.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner French. Commissioner French.
No.
Vice Chair Forney.
Aye.
Chair Meyer.
Aye.
You have 3 ayes, 2 nays.
That carries. Is there a motion for Resolution 2021-137?
So moved.
And that is a resolution approving an amended and restated joint powers agreement between the state of Minnesota, acting through its commissioner of natural resources, the county of Hennepin, acting through its Department of Community Works, National Park Service, acting through the Mississippi National River Recreation Area, and the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board, and the Minnesota Historical Society for properties at Fort Snelling in Hennepin County, Minnesota. So this is reauthorizing an agreement that we've had up to now. Is there any discussion or request for a presentation on it? I'm not seeing any request for a presentation or any commentary on it. So if that's the case, Secretary, please call the roll.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Vice Chair Forney.
Aye.
Chair Meyer.
Aye.
You have 5 ayes.
That carries, and it concludes the business of our committee. So if there is no objection, I will declare our committee adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
12 minutes off.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.